Dalvat Pranam, Swati Mataji. Ribol. Let's start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravadi Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we are on the second verse of Shri Updeshamrit, the nectar of instruction, and today we'll try to complete this verse. Okay, so we are on the last section of the purport of this verse. Okay, so first let's recite this verse and then we can go on to reading of the purport and the explanations. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai. Hari Bol. अत्याहारप्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Swati Mataji, would you like to recite the verse once? No? Okay. So let's go to the translation. I'm audible, right, Mataji? You can just let me know if I'm audible. Hari Bol. Okay, Mataji, thank you. So in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has spoken about 6 activities which are detrimental to our devotional progress. So he says that one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. Okay. So these are the 6 activities that are detrimental to the progress of our Krishna consciousness. So we have covered a significant portion of the purport. Now we'll read the last section. So we have to read from this section. The wealth of the world should be used for the welfare of all living entities. So would someone like to read?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
And the wealth of the world should be used for the welfare of all living entities, for that is the plan of Mother Nature. Everyone has the right to live by utilizing the wealth of the Lord. When people learn the art of scientifically utilizing Lord's property, they will no longer encroach upon one another's rights. Then an ideal society can be formed. The basic principle of such a ritual society is stated in the first mantra of Isho Upanishad. Isavasam idam sarvam yat kinka jagatyam yat jagat tina tyagatena bunjita ma ghat kasya chavittanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong. Krishna consciously what is know very well that this material world is designed by the complete arrangement of the Lord to fulfill all necessities of life of all living beings without their having to encroach upon the life or rights of one another. This complete arrangement affords the proper quota of wealth for everyone according to his real needs, and thus everyone may live peacefully according to the principle of plain living and high thinking. Unfortunately, materialists who have neither faith in the plan of God nor any aspiration for higher spiritual development misuse their God given intelligence only to augment their material possessions. They devise many symptoms such as capitalism and materialistic communism to advance their material position. They are not interested in the laws of God or a higher goal, always anxious to fulfill their unlimited desires for sense gratification. They are conspicuous by their ability to exploit their fellow living beings. When human
Hare
society,
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
thank you.
Would someone else like to read? Uma Devi Mataji, you want to read after
Hare Krishna
this?
Mataji, Dandavat Pranams.
Pranam,
When
last
human
one.
society gives up these elementary faults enumerated by Srila Rupa Goswami, Atyahara, etc., all enmity will cease between. Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, okay. Will cease between men and animals, capitalists and communists, and so forth. In addition, all problems of economic and political maladjustment and instability will be solved. This pure consciousness is awakened by the proper spiritual education and practice offered scientifically by the Krishna consciousness movement. Shall I continue one more para, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, you can
This
finish this.
Krishna consciousness movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. Every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and himself and rid himself of the above mentioned hindrances to devotional service by taking wholehearted shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for reading. So, in this section, Prabhupada explains about the Ishavasyam principle, that is, everything actually belongs to the Supreme Lord. If everyone has that understanding, then automatically there will be world peace, automatically people will be less selfish, and all the problems that we see around the world are, all the wars and everything that is happening and also between individuals, all the confusion is happening because we tend to be selfish. We tend to think of our own enjoyment and we don't put the other person's needs before ours. So that's where, there is a mismatch of expectations because everyone is looking for their own enjoyment. And then with the limited resources that we have, if everyone is just fighting for those resources, naturally there will be wars and naturally there will be conflicts. So that whole problem, it cannot just be solved by superficially, an artificial means, or just having meetings between nations, or even making the United Nations. United Nations is there, but are the nations united? No, there are wars everywhere, and then wars have been going on all the time in some part of the world or the other, because the inherent problem is not addressed, and that is the selfishness of every living entity. So that has to be removed from the root. Only then can we really truly have world peace or peace between humans. And the solution to this problem of selfishness is understanding that everything is actually a property of the Supreme Lord. So in Sri Ishopanishad, the first verse which Prabhupada is quoting in his beautiful purport, the Ishavasyam principle is highlighted. That means one Prabhupada says in the purport that one should be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is proprietor of anything. Everything is actually Krishna's property. And one should accept only those things that are set aside by the Lord as his quota. So then Prabhupada here is giving example of mother cow. That cow gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is actually for human beings, food for human beings. And this is the Lord's arrangement. Thus, we should be satisfied with those things He has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. So, this mentality of this is my house, this is my money, this is my car, these are my possessions, this is my family. If we keep having this mentality, then we'll always be dissatisfied and we'll always be in quarrel with others. Here again, Prabhupada gives another example of a house being made. So, for example, there's a dwelling which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. If we think in terms of Sri Ishopanishad, we must know that we cannot produce any of these things, any of these building materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labor. A laborer cannot claim to be proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. So here comes the part, the concept of a creation, a primary creation, secondary creation. Anything that we see around us or anything that we have achieved or built in our life, like for example, here the analogy of the laborer, the worker. Yes, he's working, he's bringing the all the cement and all the things together, all the bricks, everything, the plaster, all that. Yes, he does that work, but he cannot claim to be proprietor of the building because these raw materials have been provided by someone else. So, this body that we claim to be ours, this body also has been given by the Supreme Lord. Everything that we are doing, if we go back to if we start tracing the origin of everything, then we'll know that everything is actually coming from Krishna. So, who are we to claim proprietorship of anything? And yes, if there is something which is missing in our lives and we see that others are having it, then we have to understand that that particular thing was not in my quota. There is some reason behind it which I may not know now, but the Lord has not given something to me and He has given something to others. In the same way, there are maybe things which have been given to us and have not been given to others. So, if we go back and understand this whole spiritual principle, then it will help us remain less selfish and it will help us accept whatever Krishna has given us, happily. And then we can remain satisfied. And Prabhupada says, this is this mention of capitalist is in the Nectar of Instruction verse also. And in Sri Ishopanishad purport also, Prabhupada says that in modern society there is always a great quarrel between the laborers and the capitalists because each of them is fighting for their own interests. The quarrel has taken an international shape and the world is in danger. Men face one another in enmity and snarl just like cats and dogs. Sri Ishopanishad cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it can deliver the message of Godhead to man through the bona fide acharyas or the holy teachers. The human race should take the Vedic wisdom of Sri Ishopanishad and not quarrel over material possessions. One must be satisfied with whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of the Lord. There can be no peace if the communists or capitalists or any other party claims proprietorship over the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. So, if capitalists and laborers are fighting for the resources, this whole fight is completely baseless because it neither belongs to the laborers nor does it belong to the capitalists, but actually everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Everything is property of the Lord. The capitalists cannot curb the communists simply by political maneuvering, nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. Ultimately, what they are fighting for is actually stolen because it is not belonging to any of them. So they are fighting over stolen bread. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the property they claim to be their own is stolen. So one has to understand that whatever we have, the Lord has very kindly given to us to use. So it's not like, Prabhupada is telling that we should give up everything. No, we have to use everything, we have to put everything to its proper use, but understanding to whom it actually belongs. So then we'll be in the correct position. Otherwise, we are liable to be punished by the laws of nature because we are thieves. Nuclear bombs are in the hands of both communists and capitalists, and if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that these bombs will ultimately ruin both parties. So whether the power goes in the hands of the communists or in the hands of the capitalists, the problems will still remain because the root cause is ignorance of the existence of Lord, ignorance of the true owner of everything. So if the situation continues like this, both of them have they are expert in warfare and they have all these latest technology, bombs, etc. If they don't understand, if they don't bring God in the picture, it'll just ruin both the parties. Thus, in order to save themselves and bring peace to the world, both parties must follow the instructions of Sri Ishopanishad. So, what is the formula actually for real, actual, and sustainable world peace? And that is cutting the problem at the root. That means understanding that Krishna is actually the supreme proprietor of everything. Nothing actually belongs to us, everything belongs to Krishna, and we have to use everything in the service of the Lord. The problem, if we see in the world today, there are so many countries where capitalism is prominent, and there are other countries where communism is prominent. Now, can we really say that, in which country actually there is peace? We cannot really say because there are problems everywhere. The same reason is the problem is that they're not recognizing the actual cause of the problem. Like Prabhupada is explaining here that whatever the resources are, whatever the wealth the world has, it should be used for the welfare of all living entities. Because Mother Nature does not discriminate between two living entities. She does not discriminate that I'm not going to give air to the animals, or I'm not going to give air to those living in the jungles or those who are leading Aborigine life. It's not like that. Rain, sunshine, air, all these natural resources, all the crops, flowers, fruits, everything. Mother Nature is providing it to everyone. That is her plan. But the problem is that we go away from the plan of the Lord, and that's causing the problem. Prabhupada is saying that everyone has the right to live by utilizing the wealth of the Lord. So here, this here we can remember that example of how when there are a lot of grains in the placed in a common place, then the birds will only take how much they need. But the greed is in the humans. And humans will take more than what is required because we have this hoarding mentality. Why? Because we are thinking only about ourselves. Later in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that Krishna conscious devotees know very well that this material world is designed by the complete arrangement of the Lord to fulfill all necessities of life for all living beings without having to encroach upon anybody else's property or anybody else's life or rights of one another. Because for Krishna, all living entities are his parts and parcels. All are his children and he loves everyone equally. So he has provided for everyone. But the problem is some children will start eating the other children. I mean, this is really going against the laws of nature. That is totally wrong. And that is why all these sinful reactions come, and that causes so much suffering that we see around the world. Now, there is a proper quota of wealth for everyone according to his real needs, and thus everyone may live peacefully according to the principle of plain living and high thinking. This Prabhupada had mentioned earlier also that if we just follow this principle of plain living and high thinking, just if we acquire what is really needed for our sustenance, then we can actually, have high thinking because our mind will then be free to bring, there will be space in our mind to bring higher thoughts. Otherwise, if we just fill our minds with all these very, primal needs, very basic needs of food, shelter, clothing, if we make this the all in all, then where is the space in our mind to bring any kind of high thinking? We don't. We just get into that rat race of acquiring more and more material possessions and then trying to enjoy with, these material things we have. And then we fail because this does not actually give any real lasting happiness to the soul. And so then, we are just misusing this human form of life. Okay, and Prabhupada is saying that materialists who have neither faith in the plan of God nor any aspiration for higher spiritual development misuse their God given intelligence only to augment their material possessions. So, this human form of life has been given us so that we can evolve our consciousness. We can get over this bodily concept and think about cultivating bhakti. The animals, the plants in their body, it's for them it's just about survival, but for humans we have been given more facilities, and thus we should make use of those facilities and try to inquire about our relationship with God, how we can serve God, and how we can actually make this human life successful. So Prabhupada is saying that there'll be different terms like capitalism, materialistic communism, everything, but the purpose behind that is just, they want to advance their material position. They are not interested in the laws of God or in a higher goal. And they're always anxious to fulfill their unlimited desires for sense gratification. They are conspicuous by their ability to exploit their fellow living beings. So it is all about my enjoyment, how I can acquire more and more. And then, even if it requires exploiting fellow living beings, people don't shy away from doing that. They will do that too because they don't have any higher goal in mind. And Prabhupada says that when human society is able to give up these elementary faults enumerated by Srila Rupa Goswami, that is Atyahara, Prayas, Prajalpa, Niyamagraha, Janasanga, Lolyam, when one is able to give up these things, these elementary faults, then all enmity will cease between men and animals, capitalists and communists, and so forth. So the peace formula, the actual peace formula, is to give up these elementary faults which Srila Rupa Goswami has mentioned here. In addition, all problems of economic or political maladjustment and instability will be solved. So there are so many plans being made, there are so many conventions, there are so many NGOs, there are so many societies who are trying to work for the welfare of people. And it's nice, their effort is very good, but why still so many problems are existing around us and even increasing? Because people are misusing their position. Their pure consciousness is not yet awakened. Why? Because there is no spiritual education. So, spiritual education and practice is so very important because, only when that is done, then people are actually realizing their true position as a part and parcel of the Lord, and then by following these scriptural rules and regulations, we can get lasting peace in the world. And Prabhupada says that this Krishna consciousness movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. So that is the need of the hour, creating a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. So when we talk about spirituality, it's not that we are completely ignoring what is happening around the world, what is happening in the lives of devotees, or what is happening in our country or in the world. No, it's not like devotees are not concerned about world peace. Actually, devotees are the most concerned about world peace because they're trying to change the world one heart at a time. To bring lasting peace, the hearts of the people need to be changed. Like Prabhupada is saying here, that every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and rid himself of the above mentioned six hindrances to devotional service by taking wholehearted shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement. When one takes the shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement, wholeheartedly, when we accept all the practices, all the culture fully, that is when the transformation of the heart actually happens. And when the transformation of heart of people keeps happening, that is when the world actually changes. Otherwise, it's just like, imposing some rules on people. But if the people are not really convinced about why they have to follow those rules, then they will find a way out. How I can work around that rule, how I can get out of it, how I can escape from it. But when one is convinced that these rules and regulations of the Krishna consciousness movement that have been given to me are actually going to be beneficial for me, that's when one actually accepts them wholeheartedly, follows them wholeheartedly, and that is when the real churning of the heart and cleansing of the heart takes place. And we see that if we meet people, who we can know that they are of a very clean heart, they have no malice inside them, being around such people itself is so joyful. So just imagine if the world around us was full of such people, then what a joyful place this would be, and what a peaceful place it would be, where one can actually comfortably practice Krishna consciousness and make this life successful. So these are the six principles. Prabhupada is saying that it's very important to follow these principles, and this ISKCON society has been given to us so that it's facilitated. It becomes easier for us because in the association of devotees, we are able to understand what is right, what is wrong. We are able to read these scriptures and get the real understanding of how our conduct should be. So these principles are very, very important. Now, just to, because this is the end of the purport for text 2, we can just have a quick overview of all the six impediments on the path of bhakti. So the first one is the Atyahar. We have discussed this over various classes, so you all know the principles. We are just recapping them so that before we move to the next verse, we are very clear of all these six principles which we have to avoid. So actually, if we see that then there is a link between these principles. Because when one has atyahar, when one is indulging in atyahar, accepting more, accumulating more. So, the urge, or when one wants to consume more, have more things, then there is the urge to accumulate more and more. And to accumulate more and more, then one has to do prayas. So, atyahar leads to prayas because, and nothing comes free, right? So, one has to uh, do more so that all the things that one requires, one is able to get them. And when there is prayas, when we are doing this over endeavor, then we have to associate with those people who are doing that kind of endeavor, right? That brings us to Janasangha, the association of non devotees. Because materialistic people have to over endeavor for getting materialistic things because they are not satisfied with what with what they have been given. So Atyahara leads to prayas, and prayas causes janasangha, association of non-devotees. And when we do janasangha, with materialistic people who are so greedy, then we also become greedy. So that leads us to lolya. So Atyahara, Prayasa, Janasangha, and then Janasangha is bringing us to Lolyam. So Lolyam also comes. And this tendency of Atyahar to accumulate more and more, and this Lolyam is greed. So if we see, then Atyahar is the tendency to accumulate more, and Lolyam is the greed. So these two are actually related, but there is a subtle difference between Atyahar and Lolyam. Atyahara is more intrinsic and Lolyam is more acquired. But overall, like Prabhupada has explained it, the point is that Atyahara is a little more subtle and Lolya is more explicit. Okay, and then when there is Lolyam, then Janasangha, and so then naturally we end up talking Prajalpa. Okay. So all these things we'll see, it's not like, they are far apart from each other. They're actually related. When we are in an association of of non-devotees, naturally there will be useless talking, and that is prajalpa. And as we associate with materialistic people who are not following the rules, then we don't feel the importance of those rules ourselves. See, why the association is stressed so much? Because most of us, or many of us, have not reached that stage of complete conviction in Krishna consciousness. Many of us are still on the sadhaka level. So, at the sadhaka level, our surroundings, our externals will definitely impact us. So, when we are with materialistic people, they will be desiring so many things. And when we are constantly around them, we'll start thinking that, oh, I also need that. Then those things start becoming like a need, though they are not actually needed for our survival, but our our greed has increased. And because the materialistic are not following any rules and regulations of bhakti, so we also feel that, oh, this is just a ritual, this is not really important. Or people just do, just follow rules and regulations as a ritual. So both type of niyamagra comes up, and both are very, very harmful for us. So all this comes up when we are associating with non-devotees. So janasanga is a very detrimental thing, because it brings us to bad association. Now this is the negative side. There is a positive side to it, which is the association with devotees. See, because our association is impacting us, so we should try more and more to keep ourselves around devotees, because by that association, we will develop attachment to Krishna. And when we have attachment to Krishna, then we will always be seeking the association of devotees. So it goes two ways. When we associate with devotees, we get attraction for Krishna. And when we get attraction for Krishna, attachment to Krishna, then we will want to associate with devotees. Right? So, this is a sign. This will tell us, are we really advancing on the path of bhakti or not? Do we want to associate with devotees? Do we want to hear more and more about Krishna? That is the indication. Okay. So, that is where our aim should be. Now, to understand what actually is association is not just physical proximity. Like, for example, once Prabhupada was giving, he was in a Pandal program, and then there was a mosquito or a fly that was sitting on him. So, Prabhupada said that if you see, then this mosquito or this fly is actually the closest to me physically. But then, is that really association? No. So, physical proximity generally does shape and affect most people, but association means emotional exchange. Whenever there is transfer of emotions, then that is association. And emotions are connected with our desires. So, the effect of association can be positive or negative, and desires get affected accordingly. Emotions and desires, these are feelings that come to us, and desires are our aspirations for certain things. Our aspirations, our cravings, and desires produce emotions, and emotions produce desires. For example, say a person has come from a country where cricket is not that popular, and they come and stay in a hostel or somewhere in India. Now, this person doesn't really know about cricket and is not attached or has any attraction to cricket. But because he is in the association of all these students who are crazy about cricket, then he will also start having some feelings. Then those feelings, those emotions can bring about a desire. Oh, this seems interesting. So he can also get interested in playing cricket. This is how bad association works, right? There are so many very, very innocent children, when they go to association where other kids are drinking or smoking, or they are meat eating or doing other kinds of nonsensical activities. By that association, this child also develops a desire that, oh, this seems attractive because everyone else seems to be enjoying this. So why not I also get into that? So this is how our association is affecting our emotions. And when we start enjoying the emotions that materialistic people are enjoying, like for example, cricket or earning a lot of money or doing partying, these are the things that materialistic people are enjoying. If we also start enjoying those same emotions, then we also get the emotions that they are having. And those desires are often non devotional or sometimes even anti devotional. Like, for example, if they are talking about cricket and politics, these are non devotional talks, but still somewhere neutral. But if the talk is about sensuality, meat eating, or intoxication, then this is actually anti devotional. Both are detrimental, but then the anti devotional talks are very, very harmful. Very, very harmful because they take us away from the basic four principles that we need to follow. So we have to be very, very careful to avoid bad association because bad association takes a direct hit on our intelligence. And a big example is Ajamil. Ajamil was from a very cultured Brahmin family. He had a wife, so he was already married, and everything was good. But just by seeing that Shudrani, that sensuous moment, he got agitated. And even even now, such a thing would be very scandalous. So we can imagine in the Vedic times it was even worse. And everyone around him tried to give him sense, but that infatuation made him so mad. So just a moment of bad association caused fall down. But so like Bhagavad Gita says, Buddhi nashat pranashyati. When your intelligence is gone, then there is a complete fall down. Then, by the association of some saints, he names his son as Narayan, and then he got another chance. So, it is the association that can actually make or break us. Many times, we may not be feeling so enthusiastic to do our devotional practices, but when we are in the association of devotees, we get pushed. Sometimes we may just do it out of a formality. Sometimes we just do it because others are doing it, but when we do it, that actually helps us. His Grace Amog Leela Prabhu was giving an example of a boy who had gone from Delhi to Vrindavan to attend one of the camps, one of the yatras. And this boy was not used to waking up early. But when he was there with all the devotees, he was seeing that they were up at 3:34, they were taking a bath, they were getting ready for Mangalarti. So he was like, okay, now I am with all of them, I have to get up. So for all the days of the yatra, he was waking up every day, very early. And he came and told Prabhu that, Prabhu, in my life, I have never woken up so early. But why was he able to wake up? Because of that synergy, because of that power of association. So we should never think that we can just be on our own, we can read these books on our own, everything is available. Why do I have to go and talk to devotees? Why do I have to associate? The mind is very, very tricky and it can easily take us away, very, very easily just sway us away. So we have to be very conscious of who we are around, and we should never think that we can do this on our own. We really need the association of devotees. That's why Prabhupada has created this society, so that there is an opportunity, there is a place where we can all come together. We can all talk about Krishna, we can all serve Krishna and other Vaishnavas and gradually elevate our consciousness. And one big problem that bad association can bring, very harmful, is when we are intellectually attacked. For example, I'm sure all of you would have faced this in your life where someone or the other is just arguing about, does God exist? There's so many problems in the world. God is not there. God is dead. God does not actually exist. And these things, they may create a doubt in our mind, and that is more dangerous than even having desires. So if we start having any doubts about our spiritual practices, then that's it. That's such a big loss for us. But when we are faced with such a situation where we have been intellectually attacked, someone is arguing or questioning us, then we should take guidance from devotees because devotees will know how to handle those situations. So if bad association is there, it can destroy our faith, and that is the biggest loss. For example, Kaikeyi losing faith in Lord Ram because of the poison that Mantra fed in her mind. Kaikeyi was so much in love with Lord Ram, she would give him so much love as her son. But then Mantra poisoned her mind. So this is the effect of bad association. It many times it can poison our minds. And then we just, we stop experiencing that nectar of bhakti. And this bubble that Mantra created around Kaikeyi's intelligence, It was broken when Bharat ji came and he spoke those piercing words. So she got the understanding that she had made such a big mistake. So when we are also in such a situation where our faith is getting challenged, and it is only devotees who can actually help us, because losing faith is the biggest loss. And in today's world, this can happen very easily because of internet. Because so many people are writing so many nonsensical things. There are so many messages being circulated. You hear so many messages about ISKCON and misuse of money, or this happened in that temple, that happened in that temple. And just one such video can create a doubt in our mind that am I in the right place? And then that's it, because doubt is very, very poisonous. So we should remember this example of KKG and this poison in her mind. And we have to really be away from all these negative messages. If something comes and we have a genuine doubt, we should immediately get it clarified from senior devotees, and we should just cut it there. We should never let these doubts go forward. Then after this Jana Sangha, there is this concept of lolyam. So, broad principle of lolium is the excessive, disproportionate desire. That desire can be for, Prabhupada has explained, it can be for bhukti, it can be for siddhi, it can be for mukti. All of these desires, they are still, not positive desires, because if we are, putting our mind around these desires, then we'll always be ashant. Okay, because these desires are insatiable. They keep blazing more and more and more and more, and thus they are very detrimental to our spiritual life. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says that when we are as leading lives as sadhakas, the biggest challenge is to keep the first priority the first priority. And he also says that our first priority should be to keep our first priority our first priority. That means we have to understand that Krishna consciousness is our priority. And we have to keep our priority, that we keep Krishna consciousness as our priority. If we lose this, then Maya will keep attacking us and keep changing our priorities. She will always try to bring Krishna down in our priority list. And as Krishna goes down in our priority list, then we start getting less and less taste in bhakti, because our consciousness is not available to receive the higher taste. We may be in the association of devotees, but we are not really there because we are thinking of something else. Then, even though we are in such a wonderful place, we'll not really get that higher taste. And if we don't offer ourselves to Krishna, then we won't get that higher taste because we are not available. So, Maya is very, very tricky. So, we have to understand that our first priority is to keep the first priority the first priority. Krishna consciousness should never come down our list of priorities. Okay, because if we do that, Maya will bring so many other things and it will keep going down and down and down. Devotional service is our first priority, and we have to keep coming back to it. Like many airplane pilots say that when they are flying from one place to the other, there is a certain course that they have to follow. Most of the time, the flights keep falling away from this course, but then the flights still do reach the destination, right? Why? Because the pilots keep bringing the flight back to the right course. That is what we have to do. Maya and all these other allurements will keep taking us away, will keep distracting us. We have to keep bringing it back. We have to keep doing the course correction. If we keep doing that, then we'll get to the right destination. Okay. So Prabhupada says in the end that what is the final, result, the advantages of following these principles, that means avoiding these six things, is that there will be an ideal society because people won't be greedy and enmity will be minimized. Resources can be managed and there will be political stability. Okay, and this will provide a support system for sadhakas, to practice spiritual life, and from that we get spiritual awakening. So we have to keep coming back to the right path, and that is what ISKCON is doing. The Krishna consciousness movement can bring individual stability, and only then can we have world stability. So ISKCON is changing the world one heart at a time, by association, by the practices, by the culture. Okay. So the more we associate with devotees, the more we will be able to avoid atyahar, prayas, prajalpa, niyamagra, janasanga, lolyam. We'll see that in this comfort of devotee association, all the other lower tastes seem very, very insignificant, because then we are getting a higher taste. But to get that higher taste, we have to be fully available. For example, if the mother has cooked a very nice meal for the child, but the child is just not there, then the child cannot take advantage of this delicious meal. So, Krishna is giving all the mercy, or devotees are giving so much mercy, but we block that mercy. So, that block has to be removed. We have to be available to get the grace of the Lord. And with individual welfare, there will be global welfare. That's the concept that Prabhupada is really stressing, that to get world peace, we have to first bring peace in the hearts of the people. Okay. And if we are avoiding these things, these six things, then that is the way. That's when we can actually get to the final result. So just one final recap. Atyahar means overaccumulation, collecting more than necessary of any material possession, including godless knowledge and money. And to overcome atyahar, what is the solution? We have to we have to really go to plain living and high thinking. Then comes prayas. So prayas means over accumulation leads to over endeavor. So prayas is over endeavor. Prayas for material accumulation is the misuse of human intelligence. So what is the solution to get over prayas? Our endeavor should be to acquire the knowledge about the absolute truth. Else we will endeavor for artificial needs. So we should try to do all the effort for getting Krishna. Prajalpa means godless speaking and frivolous activities. All these are considered prajalpa. And what is the solution? That we should engage in Krishna related topics. That is the solution for prajalpa. Janasanga, non devotional association, associating with persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. So, the simple solution is we have to engage in service of Lord Krishna in the association of devotees. We have to change our circle. And then niyamagraha, that is accepting rules only for immediate material benefit, or rejecting rules that are meant for spiritual advancement. So we have to be very diligent in accepting scriptural rules for the only purpose of making spiritual advancement. So spiritual advancement should be our basic goal. Then lolya means greed or ardent longing, so desires for mukti, siddhi, and material gains. The solution to get over lolya is become fixed in the devotional path without looking elsewhere. You don't have to run after anything else. Krishna is there, he will take care of everything else. So, whatever quota has been given to us, we should live happily, serve the Lord happily with that. And if we neglect if we neglect the advice of Srila Rupa Goswami, then what happens? What is happening right now? There is social disturbance, there is misuse of wealth, there is unrest everywhere. So people should learn the art of scientifically utilizing the Lord's property. That is very, very important. And if we follow the advice of Srila Rupa Goswami, then the enmity between men and animals, capitalists and communists, so forth, all these problems will cease. So, all the economic, political problems will be solved, and it comes very naturally. See, devotees, as has been mentioned earlier also, that for devotees, it's not like they have to do a lot of effort very artificially to give up all these things. As we are on the path of bhakti, we will see that we can fill our lives with so many positive things, that these negative things just stop having any value. So many things that you may have found attractive earlier, now you don't even feel like looking at them. right? We all may have personal experiences and it can be different for different people. Some may have been attached to wealth, or some may have been attached to property or personal belongings, or some may have been too attached to the other people in our life. And gradually, when we are on the path of bhakti, we see that with the association of devotees, with the grace of the Lord, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev, we see that we start losing interest in some of those materialistic things. And this is a sign that the process is actually working. When we are experiencing a higher taste, the lower tastes automatically become inconsequential. We're not really bothered about them. So, like for example, if I am holding a ball in my hand and then I have to now hold a book, so one process is to put the ball down, then lift the book, or I can directly go and grab the book. And in this process, naturally the ball will leave my hand. So bhakti is that direct process. We don't have to artificially strain our mind first, leave all these things, then start practicing bhakti. No, we should automatically, immediately start working towards cultivating devotional service. When we do that, we'll see that these lower tastes become very small, and it's easy to give them up. So it is so important, as we have spent so much time on understanding all these six principles. It is very important because we are facing these things in our daily lives. Okay, there is so much of exposure that we have. When we know, when we are equipped with this knowledge from the Shastra, then we know how to keep ourselves safe. Okay, so that's why Prabhupada has given such a beautiful purport explaining all these principles in detail so that we can be very conscious and careful as we lead our lives. Okay, so we'll stop here today. If there are any questions or comments, anything you would like to say, add. No? Okay. Then thank you all so much for joining. Next week, we'll start with the verse number 3. Okay.
Very good explanation, Mataji.
Hari Bol Mataji. All what I've heard from devotees, we can try to follow. Hari Bol. Okay. So thank you all. Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha.
Mataji?
Kripa Sindhu. Yes, Mataji, you want to say something?
Yes, they have taken shlokas from different books, no Mataji, in this Upadeshamrita, and they have explained
These are
Bhagavatam.
no, Mataji.
Bhagavatam.
These are all nectar of instruction verses.
I mean, from different books they have taken and they have given here, I think. But
No,
from
Mataji.
Bhagavatam we
Srila
have one
Rupa
shloka,
Goswami.
and
Which one?
Bhagavad Gita we have shlokas.
Um, no, Mataji. These nectar of instruction verses are Updeshamrit verses only. It's
Okay.
not a compilation. These are original verses.
Original verses, Mataji.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Mataji.
To explain that they have taken shlokas, I think. Verses they
Yeah,
have taken.
Mataji, Prabhupada, in his purport, he takes verses
They
from
have
other
taken.
places
Okay,
to
okay.
help us understand.
Okay, I did not understand properly, so I asked Mataji. Thank
Yeah, these are original verses, Mataji.
you. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa
Sarvabhyascha,
sindhubhyeva cha
Patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo nama. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री उपदेशामृत की जय, श्रीला रूप गोस्वामी की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरु महाराज की जय. हरे कृष्णा, धन्यवाद प्रणाम. See you all next week. हरि बोल.